Does this movie show us how you really make it to the top? In The Devil's Advocate, a lawyer played by Keanu Reeves finds out the hard way that ultimate success might not be worth the price. After becoming one of Florida's most promising attorneys, he receives an opportunity of a lifetime, join the most powerful law firm in the country, and become one of the elite lawyers. But right as he thought his dreams were finally coming true, he discovers who he really would be working for. Let's take a deeper look at The Devil's Advocate to see what it may reveal about how they come for you. The Devil's Advocate follows Keanu Reeves as Kevin Lomax, a rising Florida attorney who earned a flawless reputation for getting questionable people off of really bad crimes. We are shown the kind of clients he represents with the very first case he's working at the start of the film. He's defending a school teacher who's accused of doing horrible things by one of his students. While he told Lomax he was completely innocent, he realizes he lied to him when he notices the teacher become excited as the victim describes what happened. Despite discovering he's likely guilty, Kevin still decided to defend him and get him off. He does this by poking holes in the girl's story and makes her appear like a liar, which causes her to break down on the stand. The jury finds the man not guilty, and just like that, a bad man was set free. While Kevin won the case, this was the exact moment he unknowingly sealed his fate. After helping free the creep, Kevin is approached by a lawyer who represents one of the elite law firms in New York City. This man tells them that they have been following him for a while, and this latest victory convinced them that they finally needed to offer him a job. This is one of the most important scenes in the entire movie, and it tells us so much about how they come for you. There is a key reason why they approached Kevin after winning that specific case. It wasn't because of his skill, but because of what he was willing to do to secure the victory. Kevin knew what he did was morally wrong, but he chose success over doing what's right, and that's what they were interested in. They wanted to see if he was willing to compromise to get to the next level. When they saw how far he was willing to go, they knew he was ready to compromise, and that's when they approached him. Something else this scene depicted was how the law firm admits they were keeping track of him. They were watching him build up his name, and right when he was becoming a bit more successful and influential, they showed up to recruit him. This scene shows us how many believe the music industry actually operates. Nowadays, the record labels watch an artist build their audience online, grinding for years. They silently follow the artist and show him no support. But the moment the artist gets that one hit and are about to start making real profit, the label comes in and offers them a deal. They make sure to get them right before they start seeing any real income. They offer them this crazy amount of cash to convince them to sign, and now the label makes all the money and controls their career. This is exactly what this perfectly depicts. They came for Kevin when they knew he was about to be the next big lawyer, and they picked him up before he can build up his own practice. They want a piece of his money and to have some control over his career. And how they managed to convince Kevin to take this deal is just like what the record labels do to new artists. See, after they approached Kevin, they had to woo him to get him to agree. In order to do that, they flew him and his wife out to New York City to check out the law firm, meet Milton, the boss, and show him the luxurious, ultra-expensive apartment they would give him if he works for them. They also promised him an elite career where he will make millions a year. Everything he could ever want in his life. All he had to do was join the law firm. This was the firm dangling the bait in his face to convince him to join. They want him to see how much they can offer him so that he not only joins, but is willing to do everything to keep it. They know he can't resist the high-rise apartment, the $1 million salary, and the fame and respect. This is quite literally a very similar way they manage to trick many artists. When a record label becomes interested in signing an artist, the label flies them out and brings them to a very expensive dinner all paid for. They might even give you some really expensive gifts. They then promise to make you a superstar and give you the world, making sure to show you a glimpse of their lavish world the whole time so they can get you hooked. This is how they make it impossible to resist, to the point where you have no choice but to sign and fall for the temptation. That's exactly what Kevin ends up doing, and he soon finds out why they say if it sounds too good to be true, it's likely because it is. See, once they convince Kevin to join, they slowly have to ease him into their world before they reveal their true motives. They prep him by showing him a little bit of truth at a time, just enough where he questions things but doesn't get scared off. This ensures he's fully dependent on them first, so he can't walk away when he discovers the reality of his situation. They do this by testing him to see how far he's willing to go to have the life he wants. They already know he's willing to look the other way when he knows his client is guilty. But is he willing to cheat to win by doing something very questionable? The first client they have him defend was a voodoo practitioner who's accused of animal cruelty. The man was caught red-handed using animals for his practices by a health inspector. In New York City, it is legally impossible to win this case. Because of this, Kevin refuses to take it, but they tell him that they have a guaranteed way for him to win. This is when he is sent to meet with the client in a sketchy underground basement shrine. When he walks in, he finds the client in the middle of doing a ritual. The man tells Kevin to let him speak through him, and then grabs an animal tongue and uses it to put a curse on the health inspector. This was a very interesting scene because of what happens after he speaks to him. The next day when they're in a courtroom, something unexplainable unfolds. When the health inspector tries to testify, he physically can't speak. No matter how hard he tries to speak, the words don't come out, and he becomes violently ill. Kevin manages to convince the jury that the man was simply practicing his freedom of religion, and it works. He wins once again, but this time, he wasn't just looking the other way. He was actively participating in black magic to secure the victory. This doesn't seem to matter to him, and he celebrates the win and takes credit for it as if it was all him. This is when they knew they had him. And this scene shows us the onboarding process, the moment when they test you to see if you're down with the program. In the music industry, a good example of this is when they test an artist to see if he's willing to do and say anything for money and success. They might ask the artist to rap questionable lyrics, promoting something bad to the youth, or maybe even invite them to the rumored secret industry parties where they test them in other ways. Once they saw there's nothing Kevin isn't willing to do for that spot, they knew he was ready. After passing the test, he is given the most important case of his career. He gets assigned to represent billionaire Alex Cullen, who is accused of taking out his own wife, his stepson, and a maid. This is the case that could make his reputation if he wins, but it seems to come at a really dark price: his wife's soul. Almost immediately after moving to New York City, she starts having dark, supernatural visions. It starts when she notices one of the women Milton is with briefly turn into what appears to be a demon. Things get worse after she attended an office party where she's enamored by Milton, who flirts with her. After this, her visions get darker and darker, and she tells Kevin that she wants to go back to Florida. But he refuses because he doesn't want to leave this big case. But the more successful Kevin becomes, the more far gone she gets. Right as Kevin finds out he won in the courtroom, his wife has a dark experience with Milton. He does the unthinkable to her, and she completely loses it. She tries to tell Kevin, but because Milton was there at the courtroom with him when she claims it happened, he doesn't believe her. Because of this, Kevin has her placed in a psychiatric facility. But eventually, the evil Milton did to her consumes her, and she doesn't make it. This was one of the darker scenes of the movie, and it represents the sacrifice for success. We have seen the same trope throughout many movies we've covered. They always depict this dark price that's required to get to the next level. In this case, it was his wife, the person he loved most. He let the job become more important than his relationship, and he basically sacrificed his wife to make it to the top. When his wife came to him begging they leave it all behind and go back to Florida, he chose the case over her well-being, and Milton came to collect. This is the last step before they fully had him, and after this, there's no looking back. Kevin finally reached the top, where he always wanted to be. He got the dream job, and he just won the case of a lifetime. He should be at his happiest. But instead, he is more miserable now than ever before. What happens next only makes things worse. Milton finally tells him the true reason they came for him to begin with. After losing his wife, Kevin has a breakdown and confronts Milton, where Milton tells him who he truly is. He told Kevin that he is actually the devil. Kevin blames him for everything that happened to him and his wife, but Milton tells him he is not the one to blame. All he did was set up the scenarios. Kevin was the one who always chose vanity to feed his ego every single time. He was the one who chose to help free a creep who went on to hurt other students. He was okay with using black magic to win a case. He decided to ignore his wife when she needed him. He was the one who chose to sell out. This is when Milton tells Kevin why all of this was happening. He explains that he was a crucial part of his plan. Kevin is the one who was going to create the Antichrist, but he refuses and finds himself right back at the beginning of the movie. This was the moment Kevin realized he was being used since the start. Everything was done to bring him into this dark group to serve this ultimate plan. He was a puppet in their agenda, but they made it look like everything was beneficial to him, when in reality, he was being used like a puppet. By the end, he realized what he had truly gotten himself into. There are countless stories of artists who are lured in with promises of fame and wealth, only to end up being used to push the agenda of certain powerful groups. Just like we see at the end of their careers, they realized their label was robbing and using them the whole time. There is also one other very interesting scene where one of the lawyers from the firm finds out he is about to be replaced, and he threatens to expose everything. The next day, Milton has him taken care of. They were showing the consequences of breaking the oath. The moment they joined the law firm and chose to work for the devil, they took an oath to serve him. When he tried to speak out, he paid the ultimate price for breaking the oath. This is what some believe might actually happen to those who try to speak out, so it's why people don't do it. This movie showed what it looks like when they come for you, what they do to get you, and how it destroys you in the end. What is crazy is that a former pro soccer player made similar claims to what unfolded in this movie. According to this player, when he made it to a certain level, he claims he was approached with a similar opportunity. According to him, they offered them a way to the top, but at a very questionable price. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Former professional soccer player Khalil Lambin, you have an absolutely wild story, including the offer to sell your soul for success. Tell us about it.
Till the day I reached the UK. And in the UK, I was offered by a journalist who in the beginning, I was not aware that he was part of this. So he basically said, let's have a interview about you. You've been in Thailand, you've been in Qatar, you've been all over the place as a young player. So the fans want to know more about you. So obviously I was naive and I said yes. And a couple of weeks later, I got some time. We went to a coffee place. And as I arrived, brother, he looked me straight in the eyes and he told me that I'm not a journalist. I'm like, if you are an agent, I already got a football agent. If you are from another team, I don't want to move from my actual team. I'm fine where I am. But then he said, no, we rule this world. We rule the sport industry. We rule the finance industry. We rule the music industry. And if you want to be part of the elite in your sport, you have to join the elite. So I was like, whew, bro, that was like tough, because for me, my hard work will be what will help me to step up. But bro, all my dream came down. I was like, in front of him, he's looking in my eyes and he's telling me that. So obviously my first reaction was fear. But bear in mind, I was not Christian. I was not working with Christ, and I was still Muslim, and he's offering me this. If you ask me today what kept me, is my beloved mother, who always told me, don't you ever sell your soul. And while this man is speaking to me, I could hear the voice of my mom in my ears. Do not sell your soul. Do not sell your soul. But then I asked him this question, what do I have to do to be part of the elite? He said, there is nothing physical. I will give you an address. You come at such and such time, and we will initiate you. I was like, whew. And as the voice of my mom was a seed in my heart, she kept, as he's speaking, I'm hearing, do not sell your soul. Do not sell your soul. I was like, I can't do that. And I could see his energy, his aura was getting like really, no, that's going to be possible. And I was like, no, I can't. And if you ask me today, I know that Jesus saved me from that. And as I'm reading the Bible says that what would a man give in exchange for his soul? And I was like, that's exactly what happened to me a couple of years ago. But now that I'm in ministry, supporting sports people into the world of football, I'm seeing footballers after one another coming to me and say, bro, actually, your testimony touched me because I've joined them. Are you sure Jesus can save me? I say, what did you do for you to join? They asked me to offer my son. They asked me to go into some intimate relationship with my own mother. They've asked me to sacrifice such person in a car crash. You see, in the physical realm, it will be like a car crash, a cancer, something, but somebody has offered them because they have the same blood. And if you look back in the Old Testament, you can see. You see, so as I am seeing this footballer telling me, I say, God, you've actually saved me from something so dark.
Now, doesn't that sound similar to what was shown in the movie? At the end of it all, This movie teaches us a very important message. When the devil comes knocking, it's best you don't answer the door. I always find it interesting when the entertainment industry makes movies that tell this story. I was just talking about some comedy sketches that literally were identical to this movie. In this Comedy Central sketch, they show a comedian meeting with the higher-ups to secure a comedy special. This is how they greet him when he walks through the door. It is quite literally giving the same vibe as we see in The Devil's Advocate. What this sketch reveals makes this movie's premise feel even more disturbing. If you want to know what these sketches reveal about the industry meeting, watch this video right now. And if you want to further support the channel, consider becoming a Patreon member. When you join, you support the channel and get over 65 exclusive videos. Another way to support the channel is by subscribing and hyping this video. Your hype literally tells the algorithm that more people need to see this. Well, that's it for this video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.